there, Dawn McVey here. I've got a fun little tutorial for you today on how to make a quick and easy glittered tab, which is just a fun little accent you can add to all sorts of projects for an interesting little bit of detail. So let's get right to it. Okay, so to get started, I've gone ahead and die cut a piece of rustic cream cardstock with one of the half and half dies. I just guesstimated on the length here. It's a lot longer than I need it to be, but that's going to come in handy to sort of serve as a handle to hold on to as we're working with the glitter and the heat tool and all that. So the first thing I'm going to do is take this is just a Versamark stamp pad. It's clear ink, and I'm going to lay it into the ink pad. The thing you want to be careful of before you press it down is you want to make sure that you're going to get a nice straight line across here with the ink. If you mush too hard into the side of the ink pad, you'll get kind of a gloppy edge along the ink. And you want to make sure that you can use this edge here on the side of the ink pad along with the edge of the cardstock to try and make sure that it's straight, which will help get a straight line across here as well. And you want to think about how much glitter are you going to apply. Do you want it this, as big as, gosh, you could cover as much of it as you want. But for purposes of my card today, I want it to be back about here. So I'm going to use this edge over here to line it up, make sure it's nice and straight. Just going to lay it on the ink pad and press it into the ink carefully. Don't push too hard because, like I said, you'll get a really gloppy edge along the side, and we don't want that. So nice and gentle, just mushing it into the ink pad. Now before I pull that off, I've got two pieces of just junky old cardstock that I keep on hand just for purposes of glittering items. And I've got some heat and stick powder here. I'm going to get that and my glitter ready. This glitter is by Martha Stewart. It's a white gold. It's a really antique-y, vintage looking glitter. It's really, really pretty, and I think it's really Christmassy. So it's going to be perfect for this. So I'm going to peel this off, and you can see I got a nice straight edge on the adhesive there, or on the ink. So we'll pour on the heat and stick powder, give it a few taps. I'm also going to tap the excess off over the trash can really quick. And then I've got my heat tool here. I'm just going to heat this. Now while it's still hot, I'm going to sprinkle on the glitter and do the same thing. Tap it over the trash just to get any excess off. And then I'm going to hit it with the heat tool one more time. And there you have it. There is our glitter tab ready to roll. So for now I'm going to set that aside. We'll come back to that in just a little bit. And I'm going to clean up this powder because I've got it on these pieces of cardstock. It's really easy to just pour right back into the containers. And then we'll move on. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is put together a poinsettia. I've gone ahead and die cut using the Christmas poinsettia dies. I've got 3 shapes of poinsettia flower here, and I've also got 3 craft colored leaves using the little leaf die. And I'm going to pull out my Christmas poinsettia stamp set, and we'll start with this great big flower. Before I get this all inky, I like to go ahead and turn it around and figure out which direction it's going to need to be stamped. That way I don't waste valuable ink time while it's nice and juicy trying to figure out which direction it needs to go. So I've got some pure poppy ink here. I'm going to get this nice and inky. These big, large surfaces, big, large stamp surfaces can be tricky. You want to be sure that you've got plenty of ink on that ink pad. And then you also want to give it a nice good press to make sure you get a really good stamped image. I'll wipe that off. This is just a regular old wet wipe from Target. And now we'll do the medium flower. Now for the leaves, I've decided to die cut them from craft cardstock because, as you'll see as we put the card together, the overall color scheme I'm going for is really neutral, like cream, a touch of black, and red. I could, of course, use green leaves. Green goes with red for Christmas. But for the purposes of this particular card, I wanted to keep the leaves really neutral, and I didn't want the green to take away from the overall red and cream that I'm after for this card. So I have instead decided to use the Versamark ink pad. This is the same one we used for the glitter tab. And it's just going to put clear, sort of watermark looking image on the leaves so that we still get a little bit of detailing, but we're able to have a really neutral leaf that won't detract from the red and cream color scheme. I'm also adding 3 leaves. Typically when I add leaves to cards tucked in behind a flower, I like to add them in uneven numbers. 3 leaves, 5 leaves, maybe even just 1 leaf. It seems to work really well. And you can end up with a really pretty balance that way. Alright, and one more thing we're going to stamp before we put everything together. I'm going to pull out the Merry Christmas to You and Yours sentiment. And I've got just a strip of rustic cream cardstock here, and I'm going to stamp this with True Black ink. Put the sentiment off to the side here. And that's it for the stamping. Let's pop this poinsettia together really quick. I've got just some little foam adhesive squares to put between the layers of the flower. I also like to fluff those leaves or the petals forward just a little bit. Just sort of helps to make that flower kind of come to life a little bit. 2 more little foam squares here. And I want to top this with a Pure Poppy button. Got a little button here that I'm going to thread with just a bit of Pure Poppy baker's twine. We'll just tie a little knot. And I'm going to use some glossy accents today to adhere this button to the card or to the flower. Just want to kind of press it into place. Hold it for a second. And that's ready to go. So let's start assembling this card. I've got a piece of rustic cream cardstock that was cut and scored to be standard A2 size card. I've got a piece of vintage sheet music. This happens to be A Christmas Carol, O Little Town of Bethlehem. I was given an old hymnal, and it's got a section of Christmas carols in it. If you can find an old hymnal at a thrift store or garage sale, snatch it up, because those, even if the only thing you use is the Christmas carols, it's so fun to pull those out and use them at Christmas time on your projects. So I'm going to put this right up at the top of the card. And I've got a piece of Pure Poppy pattern paper from the Pure Poppy pattern pack. This happens to be the damask paper, and it's really pretty Christmas kind of. I mean, obviously it can be used year-round, but as you'll see when we put this card together, it has a really Christmassy feel, and it looks really pretty with the sheet music and the poinsettia. So now we're going to take our sentiment strip and add that right at the top of the damask. And now for the flower, I'm going to put it off to the side here. And I always like to play with the placement of my leaves before I start adhering everything down, just to make sure I kind of have everything laid out the way I want. That's going to be good. So use my block to hold that down. I just got a little adhesive. I put the adhesive down toward the bottom portion of the leaf so that the top end, the pointed end, can be fluffed forward just a little bit. About like that. Oops. And we'll tuck this one in here. And then a little more foam adhesive for the back of the flower. I'm going to turn it around. There we go. So you want to press it in place really well, but you can then fluff those corners forward a little bit if you'd like. So as it stands, that looks like a really pretty Christmas card. It could certainly be left alone, but look what happens when we put that glitter tab on here. All of a sudden, it goes from kind of plain Christmas card to really jazzy Christmas card, and I love that. So we'll just put some adhesive on the back of the glitter tab, and then I'm going to adhere it. As you can see, I could put it over here, but there would be some sheet music peeking out on the right side, and it's sort of a little confusing to the eye. If I shift it just to the right, just a smidge, now you get that nice clean edge, and there's nothing distracting from the edge. And I just think I'm going to scooch it down a little. I just think it is a slightly better placement to have it off to the side, just a bit like that. And make sure that's nice and adhered. Wipe the glitter off my fingers. And now I've just got some paper snips I'll use to trim off this excess. But you can see how that was handy to have the longer tabs to hang on to when I was doing all the glitter and the heat embossing, it's nice to have something to hold on to so you don't burn your fingers. And for one last touch, I've got a large red button I'm going to top that with. And I'm going to thread it just like I did last time. Except this time I'm just going to make a little X and leave the tabs of twine peeking out on the back side. And I'm going to reach for that glossy accents again. Particularly when you're going to put something, you know, adhere a button or something large like that onto glitter, a glittered surface, you want to make sure you've got some really sticky adhesive. We'll hold that in place for a second, let it really get nice and secured. And there you have it. A glitter tab, perfect for any occasion, but certainly a fun addition to this little Christmas card. If you'd like to play along with this week's challenge, we would love to see your take on the glittered tabs. You can pull out all sorts of die cuts and any glitter you'd like, create a fun project, and head over to Nicole Hetty's blog to share the link. We would love to see what you come up with. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Dawn McVey with Make It Monday.